You know, I was in the middle of making a fun video about remastering each of the OG Stalker games when the news on this bombshell dropped. Let's read it. Recently, our employees' account for a collective work with images application was hacked. The responsibility for this was acclaimed by a community from a Russian social network. They are threatening to use the obtained data for blackmail and intimidation. This is not the first attempt to hack and leak our data, including personal information. We have been enduring constant cyber attacks for more than a year now. We have faced blackmail, acts of aggression, hacks, attempts to hurt players and fans, and efforts to damage the development process or the reputation of our company. We are a Ukrainian company, and like most Ukrainians, we have experienced many things that are much more terrifying. Destroyed houses, ruined lives, and the deaths of our loved ones. Attempts of blackmail or to intimidate us are completely futile. Our unwavering commitment to supporting our country remains unchanged. We will continue to do everything possible to support Ukraine, and this won't change in the near future under any circumstances. Despite the attempts to break us, we remain strong and courageous. Because when you believe in something and love it with all your heart, you have to defend it at all costs. We have been through a lot. However, these challenges only encourage us to work even harder because we believe that the truth is on our side. Evil will never win. In the event of any leaks, we ask that you refrain from watching and distributing information about Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl. Outdated work-in-progress materials may dilute the impression of the final idea that we have put into the game. We encourage you to stay patient and wait for the official release for the best experience possible. We believe that you will love it. We'd like to express our deepest appreciation to our loyal community. We are overwhelmed by the response and support we have received from you. Thank you for that. From each and every member of the GSC Game World team. Our mission is to commit all of our strength and passion to complete the project and deliver it to you, despite all the obstacles in the way. Your support is our inspiration. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. Sincerely, the GSC Game World team. The news on this bombshell is big because it highlights the very important tones that we've been covering in this channel since its inception, relating to the Ukrainian ownership of Stalker and why I often repeat that Stalker is not a Russian game. And speaking of Russia, we might as well call it Moscovia because they're not even the founders of Rus. They appropriated that name just like they appropriate everything, including Stalker. That is why GSC has been hacked, and an attempt at blackmail by so-called players from Moscovia of leaking a significant amount of material regarding the game. So, 5 W's. Who is doing what to whom? Anonymous Moscovian hackers who call themselves the heralds of the same Stalker, to the Ukrainian game studio GSC Game World, creators of Stalker. What is being done? A small leak of Stalker 2 material with threat of leaking a significant amount of material if GSC does not comply with the group's demands.
Let's take a look at those demands.
Alright, to rethink the attitudes towards players from Belarus and Russia, and apologize for the unworthy attitude towards ordinary players from these countries. Look, the solution is easy. Put this flag on your profile picture. Seriously, put this flag on your profile picture. You'll be good. Number 2, I'm gonna skip because this is just dumb. And number 3, a separate issue is the return of Russian localization. Fans are waiting for her from your official company. Don't ruin the people's game over politics. Look, buddy, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news for you, but the only reason you're calling this politics is because you're not hearing bangs outside your window, and you're pretty lucky to just be a spectator. But let's wait until these politics turn into bangs outside your window, why don't you? Oh, that's right, I forgot. There's no words for bangs in Russian because languages can be used for thought control. Maybe that's why the game was de-Russified. Maybe the language had become a weapon. Did you think of that? When and where is it happening? Well, now, March 2023, and the Moscovian social media site VK. And why? Well, now that's the long answer. Because this is a part of a very real war that has ripple effects beyond the front line, but this war is much older than 2014. It's about a country that calls itself Russia and how it was created. Now, that's a long history lesson, so I recommend watching this Johnny Harris video in the cards right now. But in summary, this country that calls itself Russia became an empire for many years through conquest and appropriation, basically meaning that instead of imposing their own culture when they conquered, they preserved and appropriated what they liked from those lands, and the same goes for the lands that their ancestors came from, which is where Ukraine comes in. But if you're the conquered, this really doesn't feel like you're being dominated, rather appreciated, until eventually your best competences are used to fuel a centralized system in this empire's capital. Spoiler, that capital is Moscow, and the mask of a fraternal relationship or brother nations or republics serves as a way of hiding or making a euphemism out of the fact that your achievements on every level from art to sport, science, technology, etc. are being used to fuel the power at the center. That is how Russia, or more appropriately, Moscovia, built its empire. It never belonged to everyone, it was always about the Muscovites. Now fast forward to the present where, eventually, the, quote, little brothers from the fraternal union realized that Big Brother isn't really a big brother, but rather an exploiter who centralizes everything in Moscow for its own benefit. And what do? Well, that's a hard one because you need a revolution. Or you just yeet out of there when Big Brother stumbles. And that's exactly what the collapse of the USSR was. A mass exodus of little brothers. Keep in mind, every time I say little brothers, I'm making air quotes. Obviously, though, the Stockholm Syndrome is a very real thing, and it takes time for the entire population in these countries to realize how badly they were being exploited and suppressed. But eventually, they all do, especially if Big Brother keeps trying to run things like it always did. But everything you suppress comes back with a vengeance. Everything. So, what does this have to do with Stalker? Well, when the OG games came out, they were absolutely groundbreaking, but something really interesting occurred when the Russian games press covered it.
Скажіть, а що ви в цьому бачите зараз?
Главная черта, которая, как нам кажется, характеризует «Сталкер», совершенно незаметно, что он сделан на просторах СНГ. Во время игры есть полное ощущение того, что ты играешь в западный крупнобюджетный проект. «Сталкер» бьет все рекорды отечественной индустрии. Проект оказался на первом месте в американских чартах NPD. Уже можно говорить о грандиозном мировом успехе первой действительно выдающейся игры из стран СНГ.
Самые эпохальные игры стран СНГ.
Для меня в «Сталкере» соединено все, за что вообще стоит любить и уважать компьютерные игры.
«Сталкер», он напомнил мне, что вообще значит играть.
Сделать игру такого уровня.
Это реально впечатляет. Так должны делаться игры реально с большой буквы.
На территории бывшего СССР все-таки сделали проект такого уровня. Я до сих пор, честно говоря, не могу в это поверить. Потому что это действительно проект, то есть мирового уровня. Это факт. То есть он выглядит, играется и вообще обставлен так, как будто это просто первостатейный блокбастер. Чего в России, честно говоря, на моей памяти просто никто еще не делал.
Если вы мечтаете наконец-то увидеть великую отечественную игру, покупайте «Сталкер».
Не пожалеете.
That was a segment from a video by Slidan. By the way, he made an awesome video about these games that goes much deeper into Stalker than anyone else I've seen, so I strongly recommend giving that video a watch. And we got a brief moment in the spotlight, so not bad. Welcome to those of you who have come from Slidan's channel. You're more than welcome here. So why? Why did the Moscovian hackers steal all this Stalker 2 data? Well, because back in February 2022, when the country that calls itself Russia attempted to launch a full-scale invasion against Ukraine, GSC Game World's country, the studio chose to cancel all plans to sell the game in that country that calls itself Russia, as well as de-Russifying the experience and canceling all plans to provide the game in the Muscovite languages, often known as Russian. The hackers merely want to exert a bit of control over something that they thought they owned. There's a lot of so-called Russian Stalker players, yeah, and that's actually pretty great. These games are an amazing way to bring people together, but the game was never theirs. It was always Ukrainian. To us, post-Soviet was just a period in time, a transition, but never a national identity. But apparently the Russians didn't get the memo. To them, post-Soviet means something else. But it has finally dawned on these particular Moscovians that Stalker isn't theirs, and they reacted in the same way that Moscovia historically has when it doesn't get its way, with the belief that might makes right. Well, no, it doesn't. Not in today's world where countries and people and companies with allies thrive, and those without them wither. So, a more appropriate idiom would be, fuck around and find out. Rusiski akar idit nachher. Slava Ukraini.